Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with some more Esoterica. Today we are diving back into the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum. We are reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points brought to light by the text. It is not the format for everyone, but people do find value in it, so you are more than welcome to tag along as we continue our exploration. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you in terminology, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above, in the box down below, along with the original source material, the link for my book where I teach you to do magic and live responsibly, and the links to get in contact with the channel directly so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. In addition to that, if you do find value in this video, then do all the good things down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow, throw me a comment whether you agree or disagree with anything that was stated. Put it in the box down below, and if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really find value, consider joining for a membership or giving us a super thanks. Any appreciation will be appreciated. Now, with that being said, we are going to dive in and continue our exploration of the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum with the third part, which is the Book of the Wise Father, Liber Patris Sapientiae. Let's dive in and see what's up. Thou that in this book beginneth to read, keepeth well thy counsel, the better shalt thou speed. Be thou in a place secret by thyself alone, that no man see or hear what thou shalt say or done. There's a very good reason for this warning. Do you want to know what it is? If you've been around for a while, you know what it is. If you did not heed this warning, there was a very good chance that you would die. And it's not because it was inherently dangerous to do the things in the book. It was inherently dangerous to talk about things that are in the book. We have already seen in the previous two sections that these people did have at least a little bit of an idea of what they were talking about. And what we have also seen is that they had to couch their language because times were perilous. We were right in the middle of catching people on fire if they said the wrong thing. If there was some kind of mass hysteria breaks out, all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of witches that you need to deal with. Right? This was fully in the middle of the Inquisition. And so anything stepping outside of the accepted boundaries of the control system that is Christianity would result in you dying. Quite painfully, most often. Sometimes they would let it go quick, most often they would not. And so, the things that are contained in this book, you absolutely did have to keep secret, because you would probably die if the wrong person heard that you were attempting to meditate, and that you were attempting to balance your virtues. Oh my God, what do you mean it's bad to not have possessions? Oh. And so, the warning is right here in the very beginning, right? These are separate books that were brought together. This book is telling you right in the beginning, there's stuff in here to pay attention to, but if you want to live, you better shut up about it. Back to the text. Yet ere thou begin to read much, take thou good heed with whom thou kept company. I counsel thee, who thou keepest company. I counsel thou indeed. Trust not thy friend too much, wheresoever thou go, for he that trustest best sometimes may be thy foe. Wow, that is telling you something right there as well, right? I quite often tell you to do inventory about the people that you contain around yourself, right? You are the reflection of the 5 people that you surround yourself with, and so you should ensure that the 5 people you surround yourself with are somebody that you want to emulate, right? You are a mirror, they are a mirror, you are mirroring each other. That doesn't mean that you can't have somebody in your group who is not quite on the track, but that should be the one person that you are mirroring the example to. The other 4 should be mirroring the example to you. You should surround yourself with people who bring you up. And once again, in this particular time, right, this was the 1500s, I believe, and it was not safe to say a whole lot of things. And so you had to be extremely careful with whom you surround yourself. I am definitely in agreement with that. And take heed to the words of the Father of wisdom, how he teacheth his son, how he should done, to keep his precepts of bodily governance, and with his cunning he will greatly advance. Bodily governance, you say, almost as if there is some procedure that you need to take part in order to cleanse yourself and to maintain that. Yeah. And if thou wilt not to his words take heed, thou shalt stand here oft in great fear and dread. For he that hath a forewit, he needeth not do amiss, and he that doth folly, the folly shall be his. If you are engaging in folly, fully expect that to be the reward. Now, my dear son, be thou not a no to learned or to lewd, too high nor too low, neither too young nor old, rich nor poor, unto them teach nothing, my lore. Also to such men that hold themselves wise, and so forth to the follies that glide on the ice, they ween in great books should be the art of the science of alchemy, but they be not worth a fart. What? What? Are you kidding me? Right, we've seen some shade being thrown in these books over time, right? We've seen some shade. That is the first time that this particular shade has been thrown. That's funny. Call me a child if you want to. I'm a 48-year-old man, and it's still funny that somebody says these people are not worth a fart. And for one thing, I didn't know that that terminology was around back in those days, right? It was passing gas or gaseous vaporations or something along that nature. I didn't know they called it a fart. It's interesting to me that word has survived, right? Look at this, like, this is such, right? Also to such men, F-C-U-C-H-E. That's what that looks like. Now this F is actually an S, so it's S-C-U-C-H-E. But that is such. That is not unadulterated through the passage of time. Nowadays we spell that S-U-C-H. We get rid of the first C and we get rid of the last H or the last E. Right? Other things, Y's, right here, W-Y-S-E, right, with the S that looks like an F. Again, we have changed that. It is now an I. Fart has made it. 400 years, the 1500s, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 500 years. A little over 500 years. That word has survived. I find that humorous. Therefore, my son, to thee this science I may well teach, and if thou wilt upon thy enemy be reach, or to purchase or build any good thing, it shall be to thy great furthering. This worthy science of alchemy, if thou wilt it learn, a little money out of thy purse thou must forbear, to buy therewith flos florum, it is most worthiest, and to build well her cabin and her nest. To buy flos florum. I don't know what that is. Let's see if possibly we can pop it out real quick and see. Probably not. No. Maybe it is just the music, right? Okay. I was wondering if maybe there was something, right? Most of what we have read so far, the previous two sections, has been quite explicit. This is not talking about physical alchemy. This is talking about spiritual things, right? Not the current understanding of their time about spiritual things, but some other spiritual things. This hasn't told us that yet, right? This is saying in couched language that you should be cautious before you relay the things that are in here, but it hasn't come out right and said, we're not really talking about physical alchemy yet. This part right here actually makes me think that we might actually be talking about that, because while the other ones have talked about there might be some cost, right? It is said that if you are spending the money in the physical alchemy, you're probably doing it wrong. This one is saying that you would have to spend something, right? And for this, you don't have to spend anything for the things that I talk about. Now, you might have to spend something to get the knowledge, right? The book costs $20, but it is available just for your time on the internet. I do have a playlist linked in this corner. And so, once again, I was just seeing if maybe there was something outside of what we have already seen, right? this might actually be about physical alchemy. But if so, it's the first one in here that was. And if thou put out money for any other thing, it is to thy loss. Okay, there we go. Right? To buy therewith flos florum. Right? That right there makes me think that there is something particular called this, right? Flos florum. Now, florum is probably going to be related to a flower, right? Of some sort. But to build well her cabin and her nest, maybe this is just getting a place to do the meditative work, right? It does require somewheres, especially back then, sitting underneath a tree in a lotus position doing something. You might die. Somebody, the wrong person, comes along and sees you. They report you to the church. The church comes and tears you apart with horses. That is all real, right? That do not underestimate that particular danger. And so this is maybe saying that you should invest in somewheres that you can go to do these things. Now, again, I don't know what flos florum is. That implies to me some kind of flower. We didn't get any results except for music. So maybe it is music. Maybe you're buying music and that'll help you meditate. I don't know. But if you put out your money for any other thing, it is to thy loss. That is letting you know right now that this is not physical alchemy. Simply because the accoutrements of physical alchemy are going to cost you, right? A retort, a calcinator, a mortar and pestle. Those things cost money. Gold, silver, the various herbs and spices. Those things cost money too. This is telling you that that is not what the point of this is, right? You can do that. I do alchemy every day, right? But it is not for the point of trying to create gold out of nothing. That is stupid. That is never going to happen. It is to thy loss and to thy great hindering, except it be for thy works natural food, which is had out of stone, air, and wood. That sounds perfectly reasonable to me, right? Buy this one particular thing that we don't have a definition for, right? But if you're building a cabin and a nest, probably going to be a physical location, and then buy food, right? Other than that, you don't really have to buy anything for this. I am in agreement. Right, there are all kinds of tools that you can use. I have several of them right here, right? This is a wand. This wand was created from a 200-year-old cypress tree taproot. I have a sage bundle right here. I have an entire bucket full of semi-precious stones right here. I got another one down there. All of those are tools. You can use them tools for a variety of things, but none of those tools are the end goal. None of them hold power in and of themselves. It does not matter if you have a prism stone, right? It doesn't matter if you have anything. The point is, you are the tool, and the other things that you use are assistants, right? Even like, I've got my dowsing rod here. This is a tool that you use your power through. It is identifying things in the electromagnetic atmosphere. It is not anything by itself. And so you don't need to buy any tools for the process whatsoever. Some of them might be handy. They might be useful, right? Each one of these stones has a different thing that they do. That's an amorphous, so it's really about everything. But like, we got some rose quartz here. This is really good for helping to balance things around the sacral area, right? It deals with love and lust. And so there are different stones that can be helpful as filtration devices for the energies that you feed through them, but they don't do anything in and of themselves. You can, to a small measure, charge these with energetic intention and use those as anchors in places, right? If you charge a stone in the particular way and you set it at the four corners of your house, that can help to maintain the correct energetic investment in the house. But that is only because of your intention in it, and it is only a temporary thing. All right, now we can get back to the text. And if thou have all things within the growing, then thou needest not to buy any manner of thing that should be to this science belonging, but beware of thyself for fear of hanging. That is a very real danger. For then thou and this science were forever lost. If thou make thereof any manner of boast, to any man or woman, old or young, beware of thyself for fear of discovering, again, the admonition that you can die from this knowledge, and not because it is dangerous, although there are parts that are dangerous, right? Not overly so, and not if you are correctly aligned, but if you are not and you are still persisting, then it does get to be a little bit dangerous. But for the most part, it is not, right? For the most part, the danger comes from the relaying of the information contained, and that is a very, very real danger. For if thou make any man privy of thy counsel, rich or needy, that thou must so beware, sleeping or waking, for once imagining of money making. For if God sends thee grace and understanding with this science, thou mayest have good living, but beware of speech of women liberal. Boy, if that one ain't true, that one survived for 500 years as well. That one right there has survived for 500 years in exactly that unadulterated form, just like a fart. Beware of a liberal woman. Especially if they got the bull ring in their nose. That septum piercing is a very good indicator of mental instability. Beware of speech of women liberal, and of the voice and sight of children general. Children cannot hold their tongues, right? If they see you doing something, they will relay that information. That is what that particular thing is about. Now, the tongue of liberal women, that is self-explanatory. Son, in thine own house thou mayest well get a good morsel of meat, thy mouth to sweet, both pheasant, partridge, plover, and leveret, though thou cry it not out in the common market. Therefore keep close of thy tongue and of thy hand from the officers and governors of the land, and from other men, that they of the craft nothing know, for in witness thereof they will thee hang and draw. Remember I was talking about they would pull you apart with horses just a very short while ago? That's this, right? Hang and draw. Now, hanging is pretty obvious. We know what that is. They put a noose around your neck. They put you in a tree. They pull the rope really tight, right? You quit breathing. Drawing is a different animal altogether. That they tie 4 ropes to you, and none of them around your neck. One goes around each arm. One goes around each leg. Then they get tied to a horse, and the horses go in 4 separate directions until you as well go in 4 separate directions. That is what draw is. That is a very real threat, and it is included in here because the Christians really like to do it. And thereof the people will at the sessions indict, and the great treason against thee they will write, without that the king's grace be to thee more. Thou shalt forever in this world be forlorn. You will, even today, be mostly alone in this endeavor. Also without, thou be sure of another thing, to purchase the license of thy king. Get permission from the authorities if you can, because if not, they will take care of you. For all manners of doubts, these shall betide, the better thou mayest work, and both go and ride. Also, another thing I shall thee learn, the poor people take thou nothing dear, but ever serve thy God always at the beginning, and among the poor people the better shall be thy living. Now, my child, to my precepts look thou, take heed. Whatsoever fall, after the better shalt thou speed. Better it is to have a thing than for it to wish, and when thou feelest the sore, 'tis hard for thee to get a leech. Now, my dear son, to thee I will declare more of this work which shall be thy welfare. If thou canst consider all my sayings, for therewith thou mayest find a full precious thing. And son, though this writing be made in rhyme, yet take it thou thereist no great disdain, till thou hast proved my words in deed and in aught. I wot it well it shall be set at naught. Therefore, of all bodies and spirits, more or less, Mercury is called Phlosphorum, and worthiest princess. For her birth and marvelous dealing, she is most worthiest to have been king. All right, now, there is a prevailing misunderstanding in the alchemical arts around this particular phraseology, right? Mercury is you. You as the deciding factor in the Trinity. You are represented by Mercury, by air, by the soul, and by the consciousness, right? These are things that are you in the vessel, the 5D navigation device that is the salt of the earth, the temple of God. You are the individualized piece of God that has been assigned to this vessel, right? This is your navigation device. You are inside of it. You are filling it. That is Mercury, right? Mercurius is sulfur, which is composed of two parts, light sulfur and dark sulfur. There is the white sulfur and the black sulfur, sometimes referred to as red sulfur. The white sulfur is the active masculine above energies. The black sulfur is the feminine absorptive below entity. The above is the unconscious, the below is the subconscious, the salt is the superconscious. This is saying that the thing that we could not figure out what it was before, it tells us now what it is. It is you. I mean, how do you buy you? You don't. You buy a space for you. That's what he was talking about, to build a cabin and a nest for her, the Mercury that is you. Right? Not a physical element, although there is a physical element called Mercury. Even then, they knew what it was. It is part of the refinement of gold process. You get Mercury. They were well aware of what Quicksilver was. Quicksilver, Mercury, air, soul, all synonymous. That may not be the understanding that is in this, but that is the corrected understanding that will get you where you want to go. For each is earth and water most heaviest, and each will conjoin with fire and air most lightest, and so forthwith her love each will run and flee, for each delighteth no other game or glee. Alright, so earth, that is the salt, that is the vessel. Water is the feminine element, right? The black sulfur, synonymous with water. I used to have more problem with that than I do. The farther along, the better I understand it, right? The water is the part that holds and contains the potential thereof. The fire is the masculine element, the white sulfur, and it is the part that burns away and changes things. They are both necessary. They are both expressions of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit as the void is symbolized by water. The Holy Spirit as the point of light that changes things, or fire, is the masculine element. They are both two parts of the same whole. They are referred to as Mercurius, and in that context, that is correct. When they are referred to as Mercury, that is a misunderstanding of the terminology. Right. And so, with earth and water, right, you begin with the salt, the water, the vices. You pull up the energies, that is the water, in order to cleanse your vices. You pull down the fire at the will of the air in order to balance your virtues. Some say that of sulfur and mercury, all bodies mineral, engendered in the earth with diverse colors clad. All bodies mineral are made, engendered in the earth with diverse colors clad. By the virtue of decoction before preparation, to the likeness of every bodily mineral in their fashion. Okay, so this is that misunderstanding that we were talking about, right? There is a dual nature to sulfur. The misunderstanding is to attribute that other side of that nature to mercury, right? That is most often going to be the mistake of attributing the feminine side to it. That is not correct. And so this is the preparation that we talk about here, right? Getting ready to cleanse these things, right? The body mineral, that is the 7 chakra points. Engendered in the earth with diverse colors. Again, a direct reference to my understanding. I will first begin with Saturn, after other men's sayings, how he is engendered in the earth with unclean Mercury flying, and of Mercury he is most heaviest with black sulphury earth, save he is first of fusion, and his sulfur nothing fixed. Black sulphury earth mixed. I really don't like the way that they do that. Jupiter is a white body made of pure mercury outward and of clear sulfur, somewhat earthly and white inward. Again, the masculine power, right? This clear sulfur, white sulfur, somewhat earthly, white inward, white body, that is the masculine. Saturn, dark, heavy, lead, all the feminine. Even if the terminology isn't how I would place it, it is recognizable enough that I can identify it. He is in kind, softest, and well in his fixation, for he is almost fixed, but he lacketh decoction. Mars is a white body most of unclean in the earthly made, and he is hardest of fusion with sulfur earthly clad. To blackness and redness he will soonest consume, by heat, or by corrosive when the spirit beginneth to fume. Soul is the purest, somewhat red, and is made of clean and sulfur. That's got to be clean mercury, right? I don't know all of these symbols. Did it tell us the symbol? I'm sure it did. Oh well. I don't want to lose my spot, and I will. I did. Okay. Hardest with fusion of sulfur earthly clad. To blackness and redness he will soonest consume, by heat or by corrosive when the spirit beginneth to fume. Soul is the purest, somewhat red, and is made of clean, gotta be mercury, and sulfur, engendered with a clear red sulfur in the earth, well mixed, and sulfur mixed, engendered with clear red sulfur in the earth well mixed. There is no reason why this word could not just be attached. I mean, it's not like they ran out of margin. And therefore he is without default and lacketh no degree, for he is almost hardest of fusion and heaviest in ponderosity. And Venus is a body more red, of pure mercury made in his substance, most of red sulfur and green, and therein is great variance. In the earth engendered with corrosive and bitter substance, well fixed in hard of fusion, rude in governance. Some of this is absolutely pertaining to physical alchemy, right? The intercorrelation between some of these elements and the way that they are presented is how the memetics of the planets were used, right? You used the planet as a memetic device to remember things about the substances. And so some of this will be keyed towards physical alchemy, even though it is primarily concerned with spiritual things. Mercury is a body, if he be with a substance moved, mixing one kind with his kind, so shall he be loved. One spirit received with another, and which of them be main, is cause of ingeneration of every body metalane. Right. Mercury is a body, if he be with a substance moved, mixing one kind with his kind, so shall he be loved. one spirit with another, of which of them be main, is cause of ingeneration of every body meddling. That part is making me think about the balancing, right? Now, whether that is what it was intending or not, I don't know. But Mercury as the deciding agent, the body as the thing that needs to be purified, mixing the spirits one kind with another. I don't think we've hit it yet today, but each one of these balls represents the virtue vice matrix, right? This is love and wrath. This is lust and chastity, gluttony and denial. Each one of those represents one side of a scale. They are a coin, but it is a very wide coin, right? There's a whole lot of room in between this dipole and that dipole. The balancing between those, to me, is going to be one spirit received with another, right? The which of them to be main, that is found in the balancing. There is a balancing point for each one of these. This is love and wrath. The balancing point is kindness. This is lust and chastity. The balancing point is going to be sacred union. There is a balancing point for every one of the 8 points. That, to me, is what this is talking about. Now, that may not be, but that it absolutely fits well enough for me to say that. Right? The cause of ingeneration of everybody meddling. Now, we saw in the last study that the meddling was talking about these chakras. Specificity. Luna is a pure white body of clean mercury and sulfur white. Sulfur white. And this is going to be Mercury, right, the deciding factor, and the masculine sulfur white. Now, that is a misattribution. So Luna is not the representative of white. That is fairly obvious from the studies that we have already done, right? Luna is in association with Sol, which is the sun. The sun, in every single application so far, has been the white force. The moon, being most prevalent in the nighttime, in the darkness of the void, is the representative of the dark. Gold, sun. Silver, moon. And so, Luna is not a pure white body. It's simply not. Now, if you have pulled your vices up, then you have cleansed your feminine energies to the point where they now resemble the masculine energies. Right, but that doesn't transfer things, right? It is still dark energies. It is still the representative of the void, regardless. And each is a little heart of fusion and almost well fixed, and white engendered. And each is a little of heart of fusion and almost well fixed, and each is the next cleanest and tincture of whiteness, a ponderosity of light of Jupiter bearing his witness, whiteness. And so, after the color of that earth is sulphury and receptual, some men do say is engendered every metal. But my son, the perfect work of this alteration, I shall inform the true way of another fashion. Now, I have declared the working of bodies mineral, whereof they may be engendered after other men's sayings over all. And, as in place of the earth one body was fully wrought, so must the artificial medicine be, or else it is not. Now will I declare the worthiness of Mercury in special, how each is the notable spirit that is mineral, most marvelous in working and in degree, such is called the matter principality of the 3. Also, each is very subtle in many things artificial. Each will both give and take tincture most special. To him or of him that each loveth most best, and special when each is warmed in her nest. We built that nest, remember earlier. My son Mercury is called mightiest florum, the most royal and richest of all singulorum. Each is every patron and princess most royal, and each is every mother of every metal. Each is vegetable, animal, and mineral. Each is 4 in kind and 1 in general. Each is earth, air, water, and fire. Among all other each hath no peer. Each killeth and flayeth, slayeth, and also doth calcine. Each dieth, and also doth each live again. Each giveth life, and also ingression, for jointly each is three in one. Each is a very friendly mixture, the progeneration of a great elixir. Each is both body, soul, and spirit, in color very red, black, and white. Many be the wooers that hang on her tail, but each will not with them ideal. They would her wed against her will, with foemen that liken her full ill. Each will deal with no manner great of wight, but with her husband as it is great right. With him each will bear much fruit, for he is by nature of her self same suit. My son, of him fools have much despite, and therein such fools lose their light. For sometimes he is dark, and sometimes bright, for he is like no other wight. There's the dark and the light, it is both in equal measure. For if they have their kind engendering, their natural food and good keeping, they shall increase fruit by denay, very red and white, queen, king, and queenay. My son, in this science I do deny, all things that be discording truly. All manner of salts I do defy, all manner of sulfurs and waters of corrosive. This is telling you that it is not physical. Also, aluminum, vitriol, or a pigmentium and hair, gold, silver, alkali, and sandiver, honey, wax, and oils of calyx thief, gums, galls, and also eggshells. Also, I defy antimony, beryl, and crystal, rosin, pitch, also amber, jet, and coral, herbs, dated stones, marble, or tinglis. If there come any of these, it is the worst. Again, like I told you, these tools, they have a purpose, but it is not the purpose. Also, barrels, God's horns, and a loom plume, God with them will none be done. All things that discordeth from metal, it is contrary to these works in general. My son, many fools to me have sought, but they and I accord right not. I leave them there as I them find, and as fools I make them blind. For which Mercury they have erred full sore, and then when they had they could do no more. Therefore, in philosophers each beareth the flower, for each is king, prince, and emperor. Yet, my dear son, be thou not a known, to learned, nor too lewd, too high, nor too low. That this work standeth by Mercury in her fire, her own special love, both life and dear. Right? This is telling you to balance, right? My dear son, be thou not a noun, too learned, nor too lewd, too high, nor too low. To be balanced in all that you do. For he is her son, each is his fright, in whom each worketh all her might. He is her son, each is his mother. She loveth him paramour and no other. In soul and lunae, in her meetings is all love. For a Mercury only is all her behove. And with them each worketh all her might, but they may never increase on fright. Therefore, it is possible to cast a projection pure upon a million to make a perfect body of tincture. With medicine of spirits well joined and fixed, it shall not be perceived where it is well mixed. And again, I will point out my own work, right? There's the process where you go up. There's the process where you go down. We've hit those. Then there is a third process by which you bring these together. You go step by step, checking your balance points, pulling the energy both up from the feminine and down from the masculine into the heart, the binder here in the middle. That is the Philosopher's Stone. When you do that, this green, which will be glowing if you are doing it right, will change to gold. That is you projecting your tincture pure. It's gold, right? The green presents as gold if you have done it correctly. And therefore, if there comes silver or gold in at thy gate, the which men use in aeon or common plate, I swear by God that all this world hath wrought, all thy labor and work shall turn to naught. What? What? What did it just tell you? That if you do get silver or gold from this process, right? Not that which men use in, I don't know what a coin, that's got to be coin, or in common plate, right? That would be physical silver or gold. And it is saying that if you do receive it, all of your work will be naught. It's not the physical alchemy that is being discussed here. For with what metal soever that mercury be joined, because of her coldness and moistness is alloyed, put them never so close together, each will fume anon, and when they come into the fire, each will soon be gone. Therefore, mercury hath a lover that passeth them 1,000-fold, whoso will him ken, and he is her lover, and her leman sweet, and so his counsel each will keep. Both in his chamber and also in his bed, also alive, and when they bind dead. Seek ye forth, fools, as ye have sought, for in all other things find ye right naught. Now, my dear son, to thee I will indite the truth in word and deed I will write, how that a precious stone shall be made thee to rejoice and made thee full glad. As I said in the 32nd chapter upon my conclusion, how I should inform the truth after another fashion, and to perform this science both in word and deed, in making of our medicine, God must us speed. The which is called the great elixir, and is verily made a stronger mixture, in which is a stone very mineral, and thou mayest him well get ever all. My son, thou shalt take to mercury no other thing, but earth that's heavy and hard, and stiff standing, the which in himself is dark, bright, dry, and cold. To join them together, thou mayest be full bold. Again, the virtue and vice matrix. One of them to 10 parts of water running most heaviest, and they shall be both one, and to thy work most mightiest. Then hast thou man and woman together brought, in which is done by great love of thought. That is the binding together of the feminine and the masculine. That is the chemical marriage. The which two be both spirits and one body most heaviest. Then they will be in your chamber and bed joined in the element. The which is more bigger, and bigger, hot and dry. Lightest, and dry lightest. And therein they will both kiss together and neither weep nor cry. Maybe that was element lightest. For when the earth and water is well mixed by the virtue of the lightest element, well hardened and fixed, for before that time they be water running both, and then shall turn to fixed body, be they never so loath. For in their bed they shall make a perpetual conjunction after the feeding of the light element and of their proportion. So should they be decoct, having the perfect fixation, in the likeness of a body in fusion, having his fashion. But at the first in their bed they may endure no great heat, so as they may well labor in their bed for sweet. That's sweat. At the first it there be in their chamber overmuch red color, hastily going thereto will cause great dolour. The first for me is going to be red as well. For in their first nest they should be both water running, and because of heat they should be ever drying. and so therein become a subtle dry substance, to which work shall they greatly advance. Again, this is saying to me the exact same thing, right? Because of the heat, that is the masculine cleansing power. The water running is the feminine power, right? The feminine maintaining power is the best way of looking at it, I guess. It is the tempering of stability. That is what it does. The white is the volatility. The dark is the stability. And so your vices are you staying in stasis. The virtues are you actively overcoming those vices. But if you overcome those vices too far in the wrong direction, then you need to temper them with a little stability from the feminine. That is bringing together the masculine and the feminine in balance. We'll use love and wrath because it is the easiest, right? If you are over-consuming in wrath, that's fairly easy to recognize. You get angry all of the time. But if you are overextending in love, that's a little bit harder, right? The best example of that is going to be if you are in a relationship with a narcissist. Someone that is in love with themselves entirely cannot be in love with you. And so if you are extending love to someone who loves themselves more than they love you, then you are in a toxic relationship. You are overextending love where it should be kindness instead. That person is not meant to be in your life if they do not value you being in their life. And so you have overextended love, and you need to retract that a little bit. You need to stabilize that by adding a little bit of wrath, right? It is perfectly valid to be upset that a narcissist has taken advantage of your naivete. That is a valid response. You should be a little bit angry. Not to the point where you start throwing things or try to injure them, but to the point where you value yourself enough to remove yourself from the situation, to be kind to yourself, and it is kindness to be truthful with the person who is offending you, right? It is not kindness to be wrathful, but it is not good to be overly loveful in that particular situation. Kindness is a better way of going about it. That is what this is talking about, right? If you are overextending in your virtues, add a little bit of the vice. If you are overextending in your vice, add a little bit of the virtue. Try to find the median balancing point between them. There is a balancing point between all 8 of them. And that will allow you to do this in a way that is most effective in your life. Back to the text. Therefore their nest must be made of strong kind, of the most hardened and the clearest body, that they not outwind. For if it so be that in their chamber or nest begin to break, anon out thereof they will begin to creak. And then is all thy work and thy great labor lost. Then thou mayest begin again upon a new cost. And so thou mayest not be negligent and hasty, but of the bed be sure. Without it be hard stuff and clear, it will not endure. And if thou will at the first hand give sudden heat, it will unto thy work be nothing meet. And if thou let him have any sudden great cold, all thy shall break thy work, then art thou too bold. Let their nest be somewhat large with a broad roof, and therein they shall abide if it be strong and close above. And in proportion put thereto nothing more nor less, but as is said before, if thou do it is the worst. Also from the bed's head there must rise a high spout, and another almost down at the bottom, that the spirit go not out. And thou must save the flyers that swim into the upper place, for they may hereafter engender a body as well as the other in space. Also be sure that thou put in their bed no other thing than thereof that shalt have no great winning. If thou do this, it shall be to thee for the best, to keep them close from flying and warm in their nest. First, with soft fire, her nest must be warmed. With a little bigger fire, with overmuch, they shall be harmed. Under thy chamber, flour, measure with fire, with time. Then cometh the reward, gold and silver fine. After the quantity, space, and time must be had. For to deal together, they must in their dealing glad. Be in their dealing glad. And how long space and time I cannot well say, that they in their chambers and nest will be in sport and play. Behold, the uppermost of their nest, what there cometh out, the sweating of their bodies laboring round about. And when they have played and sweat and labored so sore, they will be still and neither labor nor sweat any more. Then let them cool easily and draw their breath, and then there shall be some above and some beneath. There thou shalt see a stone, as it were, great powder, which shall be to the right great wonder. Then take them out of their chamber and bed anon, and lay them upon a marble stone, and break them thereon. And look what thou hast in of color and ponderosity. Put to him as much of phlosphorum greatest in dignity. That is the same spirit that thou hadst before, and so meddle them together, and learn them the same lore. All together in bed and in their chamber they must be, for a marvelous work thereof thou shalt understand and see. And thus, so oft thou must multiply thy work, to ascend and descend into the air as doth the lark. And when the lark is weary above in his sound, anon he falleth right down to the ground. Behold well their body, and to their head lay thine ear, and hearken thou well what work they may there. If they begin to sing any manner of voice, give them more heat, till they hear no noise. And thus give them more heat in their chamber and bed, till thou hearest no manner of noise rumbling to nor fro. And thus continue in their bed, in their sporting plays, and also after the quantity thereof continue so many days. When their play and wrestling is all well done, in their voice singing and crying and sweating up and down, give their chamber bigger heat, till their nest be red, and so bring them down low, and have no fear nor dread. For thus with heat they shall be brought full low, that they shall in their bed be neither cry nor crow, but as a body lie still down in their bed, in their own likeness, as they were bodies dead. Of gray and white is all his chief color, for then he passed all his great dolour. I swear by Almighty God that all hath wrought, thou hast found out that many other men hath sought. Then take thou him out of his chamber and bed, and thou shalt then find a fixed body as he were dead. Keep thou him close and secretly within thy place, and thank God, Almighty God, of his grace. Now, my son, before this, after this science I have right well sought, and thus to thee I have the white elixir perfectly wrought. If thou wilt of the red elixir perfectly understand, thou must take such another work in hand. My son, then when thou hast wrought more upon more, doubling each time, as I said before, make thou what thou wilt of red substance, as I did white work in matter of governance. Then thou must take the red stone that is all ponder, and lay upon a marble stone, and break him asunder, and to meddle him with the white spirit and water clear, and so put him in his bed and chamber in the fire. And so in his chamber and in his bed he must all this while be, till thou hast turned and brought him to another manner of glee. This red elixir, if thou wilt open work here, thou manner of school, thou must right well learn. Thou must hang him in his chamber with red color, till he be fixed and brought from his great dolour. Then of this work be not throw aghast, for in thy work all the worst is past. And so in his fiery nest and chamber let him be sure, for the longer he be in, the better shall be his tincture. so that he run not like blood overcoming his fusion, then hast throw perfectly this work in conclusion. Thus he must continue in this great heat of firing, till he be full fixed that he be not running nor flying. Then he will give tincture without number, running like wax, unto his like of fusion he will be both join and mix. And if thy work be thus well guided and so forth led, then hast thou in thy work right well and wittingly sped. For if thou do otherwise, then I have thee told, in the adventure of thy work thou mayest be too bold. For if thou work by good measure and perfect time, thou shalt have very good silver, gold and silver fine. Then shalt thou be richer in thyself than any king, without he labor the science and have the same thing. Now, my dear son, I shall teach thee how to cast a projection. Therein lieth all great preference with the conclusion. Got to be perfectness, but spelled wrong. To lead an imperfect body to his great perfectness, in joining that like to his like, they standeth in no distress. No distress would be balanced in the like to like. For when thou hast joined the milk to the body's dry, the white to the black, then hast thou the white and a red elixir truly, the which is a marvelous and very precious stone, for therein lieth thy science, all the work upon. In this science these stones be in themselves so precious, that in their working in nature they be marvelous. To show thee the great virtue, furthermore I will declare, that if thou canst with thy manner of working well fare, first thou must take of that body which is next soul in perfection, and of his color towards and ponderously and proportion, being soluble as it were clear blood running. In the hot element it is always lightest and fleeting. Right. Take of that body which is soul in perfection, that is what color? Gold. This is talking about projection, and as we have stated already, the fourth part right there is albedo, which is the bringing up and the whitening process. There is, or the negredo, that's the first one. That is the darkening, right? That is cleansing the dark. And then there is the albedo, which is the bringing down, that is the cleansing of the light. Then there is the reddening, the rubedo, which is the joining together of the balances. And then there is the citronellus, which is the projection, and that is the gold that is made. Here we are. Then take part of the red elixir, that is the precious, and cast him upon that body, that is blood running anon, that is the precious stone, and cast him upon that body, that is the blood running anon. And when thou hast thus perfectly this work wrought, it shall be turned into perfect soul with little labor or naught. On the same wise do for Luna, that is in the color so white, and joining with that body that is shining and somewhat light. In the same proportion cast him the very white stone, and then is all the greatest work both made and done. Alright, so the only thing that I have any disagreement with here is the order, right? This is identifying Luna with white. Luna is the dark. And for me, that is the only problem. It is exactly the opposite for that particular appellation. But they're even talking about the gold and the sun. And so, then hast thou both the red work and the white. And again, red is a misnomer for black, right? There is the black and the white, the dipoles. Therefore, blessed be that time both day and night, for this work that standeth by great virtue and love, thou must thank Almighty God in heaven above. Son, in the 21 chapter there write I full true rhyme, that is to say unto this work thou have no great disdain. Till thou have proved my words in deed and thought, I know it well, science shall be at naught. My son, to these last precepts look, thou take good heed, for better 'tis to have than to with for in time of need. For whoso is bold in time to a friend to break, he that is thy friend may be thy foe and his enmity rake. Therefore, son, I shall give thee a great charge, in uttering of speech be thou not too large, to tell every man what thou hast in silver or gold, for to have it from thee many men will be right bold. Also use not to reveal, nor riot that should exceed, to thy body health the better shalt thou speed. Use temperate diet and temperate travel, for when physician thee faileth, this shall thee avail. I also tell you this, right? Now, the travel, not so much. It was much more dangerous back then than it is now to travel extensively. There is nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, it is highly recommended that you get outside of the city, state, and county or parish in which you were born. Get out and get new experiences. Go a couple of states away. It is revealing to see the differences in culture within the same nation. Get out and get diversity in your life. Do so openly and honestly, without prejudgment or predisposition. But in addition to that, you should be endeavoring to take care of yourself in diet, right? Use temperate diet. You should also exercise, right? That doesn't mean that you cannot have ice cream or sweets. Yes, you can, in moderation. That's the key. You can have pretty much anything in moderation. I would not recommend heroin or fentanyl, but other than that, you'll probably be all right. You can drink a little bit, no problems. You can smoke a little weed, no big deal, right? That doesn't mean that it should be a lifestyle. It doesn't mean that it should be the all-consuming activity of your life. But in moderation, there's no problem. But you should not be overly consuming in sugars or seed oils, for instance. Those are bad for your health. And while they do serve a purpose, in moderation, they are not good for you to overconsume. The exact same thing that I would tell you right now. Again, travel, right? It is very easy these days. It is not that dangerous if you stay in this country. And leave all blind works that thou hast seen or heard of, or proved by sublimations, preparations, distillations, or dissolutions of such manner of things. Great books do greatly specify, and all those contrary sayings in this craft I do plainly deny. This is the third time, right? And it's at least twice in this particular section, but in this study of the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum, we have had 3 authors. All 3 authors have told you the exact same thing, that you can do physical alchemy, but they are not talking about physical alchemy. That's what this is saying right here, right? All blind works, sublimations, preparations, distillations, dissolutions. That is half of the process of physical alchemy, and it is telling you that they are all plainly denied. Also, my son, remember how thou art mortal. Yes. Abiding but a while in this world which is terrestrial. Thou wottest not how long, nor hence how soon, that death shall thee visit and unto thee come. And remember thee well at thy departing, whom thou lovest and trustest best, old and young. Make him thine heir and most of thy counsel, and give him thy cunning or thy book every deal. In the very first one, Norton's Ordinal, we saw this talked about, right? There are many people who set out upon the path. There are very few people who are worthy of that path. And that doesn't mean that they are intrinsically not worthy. That means that they are not going to put in the work. They don't have the dedication. They don't have the fortitude. They are too submissive to other people. They are not suited for the greater works, especially in those times. And so what the practice was to find one person, one singular person that you could pass it on to. But there was problems with that, right? What are some of the problems? The most prevalent is that you lose knowledge, right? Besides the fact that you don't have the communion that would help you to sharpen these skills, right? That is a major problem. But On top of that, there's loss, because what did it just tell you? You don't know when you're going to die. And so you might have the knowledge passed on to you by your elder, and you have not yet found an apprentice, and you have a stroke and you die. Well, that knowledge is gone. Bye. Gone. That is one of the intrinsic problems that we face. That's what happened to the knowledge that was Paracelsus. That's what happened to the knowledge of the Egyptian priesthoods, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Greeks, the Romans, right? All of them. We lost so much knowledge because of this limitation right here. And most of that limitation is due to the control systems. It would not have been that big of a deal if people failed out of the program, if it wasn't for the fact that if they failed out, they were going to the church and they were going to have you killed. Right? And you can't just pass them, give them more knowledge when they're not ready for it, and then they get impatient and they decide that they know better, and they go to the church and say, hey, this guy's teaching me sacrilege. And next thing you know, you're being drawn and quartered, or burnt at a stake, or a variety of other very inventive, torturous devices. And so this is one of the intrinsic problems that I am trying to overcome, right? I have taken it upon myself, at the direction of Spirit, I fully feel, to disseminate this information to anyone who would pick it up. There are bars, right? You have to work through all of these studies to pick it up, or you have to pick up the book. Not just anybody is going to do either one of those things. Most people who click on my videos don't make it past the intro. That is fine, right? It's not great for my algorithm. It's not great for other people seeing it, but it's great for running off those who are not dedicated. And if you can make it through the intro, you definitely don't need the knowledge on the other side of it. If me saying that we are reading aloud from all of these books from history is too much, then you don't need to be here, right? If me explaining these things in clear terminology is too much or too difficult, you don't need to be here. I say all of the time that this channel is open to anyone, but it is not for everyone. Not everyone has the dedication to get through it. If you're this far in, you do, but you are the exception to the rule as much as I am. Most people are not going to do that. All right, we're almost done with this, so. But beware of flattering and glossing people, of boasters and crackers, for they will thee beguile, of thy precious cunning behind or before, and when they have their intent, they will give thee a scorn. Now, I know what a boaster is. I am not sure what they mean by cracker. I know what it means today, but I doubt very seriously that that's what it meant then. Therefore make no man of thy counsel rude or rusty, but him that thou knowest both true and trusty, in riding and going, sleeping and waking, both in word and deed, and in his disposing. Also in thine own chamber look thou be secret, that thy doors and windows be closed shut. For some will come and look in every corner, and anon they will ask what thou makest there. And therefore a good excuse must soon be had, or else thou shalt verily wind for to run mad. Say thou laborest sore both sleeping and waking, to the perfect way of strange colors making. Yeah, that's a good one, right? What are you doing in there? Oh, I'm just trying to make colors. We are trying to make colors. As it be sure, bice, vermilion, aurum, muficum, and others. Right now, vermilion is a purple. These other ones I don't know. Or else, with some people, thou shalt never have a dew, right? And others mow. Or else, with some people, thou shalt never have a doe. Also, thereof thou must have many samples to show, or else that they may harms think will say so. Also, furthermore, I give thee right good warning, beware of thy working and also of thy uttering. For the examination of the people, better or worse, ere thou have for thy work thy money in thy purse. Therefore, take heed, my son, unto the chapters 60, and all manner of things said which should be done before. For in astronomy thou must have right good feeling, or else in thy book thou shalt have simple believing. For thou must know well of 7 principal characters, to what bodies in heaven moving, that they be likened in those, the planets are mimetic devices, and to understand their properties and their conditions, figures, in colors, qualities, softness, and hardness, and their proper fashions. Now, son, to thee that undertaketh perfection in sciences, whether it be speculative or practic, to my sentences. In this science and labor I think it great ruth, therefore I write to thee very truth. And to thee that understandeth no perfection nor practice, in no conclusion prove that should be to his work like, by Almighty God that all this world hath wrought, I have said and performed to thee right naught. Therefore, my son, before that thou this book begin, understand wisely in this what is written therein. For if thou canst not find by this book neither sun nor moon, then go forth and seek thou further, as other fools have done. Explicit liber dictis pater sapientiae. Here ends the book of the Father's wisdom. And that's going to bring us to the end of the study. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a somewhat difficult series of topics. I understand. I hold some unconventional beliefs, and I do have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. We stand on facts. We stand on what can be discerned. Now, a good bit of this, I felt like I understood fairly well. Some of it is probably dealing with physical alchemy, and I don't. Some of the terminology we do not have the interpretation for, like these colors, right? I could identify one of the 5 colors named. I could probably do some research and find out what the other ones were, but as of now, I don't have that. The understanding that I have lets me know enough, though, right? When you're talking about making colors, that is obvious to me, right? You are taking the dark red and you're making it a little bit pink. You're taking the pink and you're bringing down the darkness. You are changing the color of things. And so, to me, that absolutely makes sense. To me, most of this makes sense. We have been over this material time and time again. I just came out with the 2nd edition of this book because we have added quite a bit due to these studies. This alchemy stuff is really opening up the door, right? I had already walked through the door not having the understanding from 500 years ago. What I have done, what I have seen, what I have achieved already is being verified by these studies, right? The language is different, but the circumstances are different too. I am in no danger of the church coming and killing me. I am in danger of several individuals, right? If you are zealous in the control systems that are, then you're not going to like me breaking them apart and talking shit about them, but they deserve to have shit talked about them. If you had doubts, they killed you. That is not a way to live, right? You should have doubts. God himself in the Bible told you that it was okay to question, but the church won't. The church would kill you for questioning. They would draw and quarter you. They would tie you to a stick and light you on fire. They would throw you in a river tied to a chair with stones in your lap to see if you would float. Those are real things. Those happened, right? That is a real life situation. That particular control system was spread by the sword, not by peace, not by persuasion, by the sword. Almost exclusively. There's some, right, in more recent history, the advances are by persuasion, but that's not the history thereof. The entire history up until the 1800s, you would die rather painfully. That's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I feel like we have talked about these things well enough that I don't have to continue on, right? We're there. And so if you like what I'm doing, let me know down below. Give me a like, a share, or follow. Throw me a comment. Whether you agree or disagree with anything that was stated, put it in the box down below. And if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership, picking up a copy of the book, which is now in 2nd edition, or contacting me directly through the links provided down below. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been pittstake. Peace.